Due to the fact that the interview you did with Masry in 2009 was used in his trial, did you feel any sort of obligation to make this film? And also, what was your relationship like with him?
I don't know about obligation, because it's so patently ridiculous that they would use it that it's hard to feel as though you caused something when they've weaponized idiocy. But Masry and I became very friendly afterwards, and I think I just admire his courage, but also his humor, and that was more the genesis of getting together and doing the project. I generally stay away from the word enjoy whenever it comes to work, but the story it grew organically from my relationship with Masry after he was released from prison, and sort of the friendship that we developed over breakfasts in New York. So in that regard, it wasn't so much that I chose, it sort of grew out of our relationship. But directing was certainly an incredible experience. I'm used to a very different schedule and a very ephemeral kind of, I make egg salad, and I make it every day and throw it away afterwards. So to have the opportunity to create something with more shelf life was appealing in that regard. I had originally had a vision of purity, of the movie would be in Farsi, and we would use only Iranians who'd actually been in prison, and there'd be an authenticity. And Masry would say, don't you want people to see it? And you're not Iranian. You have to embrace your limitations in making the film. And his knowledge, his understanding of that opened the field, I think, for me, to make the story more universal. And Gael, there's a certain part of Masry that is this ability to maintain mischief in the face of duress and in the face of all these difficult circumstances that he was under. And Gael, as an actor, was able to embody that in a way that no one else that we had could. I think what's changed more is, as you see the chaos that ensues in the power vacuums, I think people, like in Iran, are more wary of revolution. They still want reform, but I think they're very wary of what it is that would replace vacuums of power. It may not be the perfect system for them, but it's, as you look to Syria, as you look to Libya, I think they can look and say, we will choose a method that is more incremental.
So my character is Ali Reza, who is a student campaign officer for Ahmadinejad, and he actually went to university with Ahmadinejad's son. And the good thing about him, well, good thing, I mean, in the film, he's a stark contrast to the Green movement, where the majority of the youth are part of. So it was nice to have that that balance between the right wing and left, so to speak.
Being a part of a film based on people who are, the majority of people who are still alive, and who can judge your portrayal of them, did that make it any more challenging?
I think the pressure was off as soon as I met Jon Stewart, and as soon as we spoke about it, and when I had met Masry on set as well, he just said, just tell it the way it read to you, and if there's anything that needs adjusting, we can work on it. But the most important thing is just to portray a true character.
Obviously, this is a hugely important story that the film's telling as well. How does it feel to be a part of that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's a great opportunity to be able to tell this story, because it's so poignant right now with everything that's going on in the world. Like, you see what's happening with ISIS, and Ukrainian journalists. It's happening all the time. People are being incarcerated every day. So, of course, it's a relevant story to tell.
The film is very real.
Yeah.
When you watch it, and there's also some quite tense and quite difficult scenes as well. In the film covers both Bahari's story and also some wider political issues. With sort of the tenseness of the film, what was the atmosphere like?
The complete opposite. It was so far from that, and I think that's the most important thing when you're dealing with such a heavy topic and heavy story. You treat it with the utmost respect and integrity, but don't take yourself too seriously, which is what I learned from Jon on set. We were constantly making jokes, behind the scenes and stuff, and before every scene, he'd come up to me and be like, "I want you to do the worst job you can ever do." No, he's not there. But yeah.
My character's called Davood. It's based on a real a real character, a real person who was part of Mazyar's life. He initially is a driver. He meets Mazyar at the airport, and Mazyar soon discovers that Davoud's a little bit of a bit of a chancer, a bit of a kind of street hustler type, and ends up showing Mazyar part of the society that Mazyar didn't really have access to, the sort of disenfranchised members of society, the youthful kind of students that were experiencing a different side, the new generation of young Iranians that wanted change, really. And Davoud had access to them people and basically took Mazyar to them and showed them and gave them a voice. So he's kind of the catalyst, really, for that.
In a film where the majority of the characters are still alive today, does you feel any sort of extra pressure or any extra challenges in trying to kind of portray their role?
For me personally, I didn't too much. I mean, obviously, Gael playing Mazyar, and we knew Mazyar while we were filming. It was probably a little different for him. But for me, I think I could see what the dramatic purpose of my character was and kind of use that rather than trying to discover who Davoud was in real life. It didn't seem necessary, really, for me personally to do that. I kind of just stuck with what the script required of that character and played that. But obviously, as you say, it is dealing with people that are still alive and issues that are still current. I don't think you think too much about that at the time. I think it would become distracting. But in hindsight, I think it's what has made the film kind of interesting is that it's a hot topic at the minute, and people want to have these discussions. But yeah, certainly at the time, you kind of don't think too much about that.
And what was it like having Mazyar on set for the majority of the production?
Amazing. Mazyar's a real character. He's really funny, and he made sure we pronounced his name right. That was one thing he wanted to get in the room. Mazyar Bahari. I won't forget that. But he, we'd go for dinner and stuff, and he'd talk about his experiences, and there's a great sense of humour with him. I think that's maybe why Jon really wanted to tell this story, is that Mazyar is someone that sees the light in the darkest moments, and so he, to have him there was great. For Gael, it would have been kind of weird playing him and the guys literally behind the camera, but it was, he's a wonderful guy. So the more info you can get off him, the better, the more you can sort of enrich the story.